Niger's military says suspected terrorists have ambushed a group of its soldiers near the country's western border. The attack killed at least 17 soldiers and wounded another 20. The defense military says it killed around 100 of the attackers.
Mayeni Jones, with our partners at the BBC, joins us now from Nigeria with more on this. Mayeni, what more do we know about this latest attack on troops there in Niger?
Authorities in Niger say it was an attack by what they describe as terrorists. The country has been fighting an Islamist insurgency for years now. As you mentioned, they say that they killed 100 of those attackers, but they were able to kill 17 soldiers and injure 20 of them. Apparently, they were on motorbikes. When they launched the attack, this is the deadliest attack on Nigerian troops since a coup that was launched there 3 weeks ago on the 26th of July, and it's also the 7th attack on their troops. So I think it's really reflective of a deteriorating security situation in the country as this coup is happening.
Yesterday, Niger's military junta said that it is open to talks to resolve this crisis. How likely is that to happen?
At the moment, there's a real standoff between regional authorities, the regional bloc, West African bloc, ECOWAS, and the junta. Both sides say they're open to talking diplomatically, but in practice, that's been really tricky. Last week, initially, the junta had said, after it was visited by some Islamic clerics from the region, that it was open to talks. And then the very next day, it declared that it had enough evidence against deposed President Mohamed Bazoum to take him to trial for treason. That really inflamed regional democracies that said that it would be difficult to negotiate with them as a result. And a member of ECOWAS, the regional bloc, spoke to the BBC's Hausa service today and said that it was very difficult to negotiate with the junta because they simply wouldn't talk to them. So both sides, despite saying they're open to negotiations, in practice, very little seems to be moving in that direction.
What is fresh, Mayeni, is that Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to Mali's interim president yesterday, a neighboring nation as well, and is calling for Niger to return to constitutional order. I understand that the Wagner mercenary group is also kind of a key component in what's happening there. What stake does Russia have in the region?
Well, Russia has been gradually moving into the region as Western forces have been pulling out. As a matter of fact, Niger was one of the few countries left in the Sahel region in Western and Central Africa that had Western partners. There were troops there. There are troops there from the US and other European countries, including France. And so for many Western nations, this coup in Niger is really tricky. They've invested millions of dollars over the years in building bases there, including a drone base that they've been using to attack insurgents across the region. So Western powers have a big vested interest in making sure that Niger doesn't fall into a coup, because what we've seen happen in neighboring countries like Mali and Burkina Faso is once a coup happens and Western forces withdraw, then mercenaries from the Wagner group move in, and that's led to a number of claims of attacks against civilians, human rights abuses. This is something obviously that Wagner denies, but the West is very concerned that Russia could grow its footprint in West Africa and in the Sahel if the coup in Niger is allowed to carry on.
Military chiefs for ECOWAS are planning to meet later this week in Ghana to prepare for a possible military intervention. The group has already activated a standby force. So what would military intervention mean for the region as a whole?
I think for many analysts, military intervention at this stage would be catastrophic. They really are worried that tensions in an already volatile region, a region that we've mentioned is already struggling to push back a growing Islamist insurgency, a region that is struggling to recover economically from the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine, that adding a regional war to that would be incredibly destabilizing for the region, would have devastating consequences for civilians caught in the middle. And so this is something many analysts say should be avoided at all costs. Now, ECOWAS says it has a standby force. It hasn't said when it would deploy it. It's told the BBC that it would only happen if negotiations do not happen. But I think the message they want to send in this meeting in Ghana on Thursday and Friday is that if push comes to shove, they are willing to step in.
Certainly a very serious moment. Another comprehensive update there from Mayeni Jones with our partners at the BBC. Thank you very much.